Hello. Welcome to the Simply Together show. It's the 13th of August and it's beautiful out there. It's what?
Scary thought, 13th of August.
Yeah, because somebody put up on Facebook the other day that it's however many Fridays to Christmas.
Yeah.
Seriously, we're not. Come on, we haven't had the bank holiday yet.
Do you know Tesco's have got their Halloween stuff in? No, not Tesco's, the range. They've got their Halloween stuff in. It's August. Halloween's not till October. But anyway, it's beautiful outside. Make sure you've got your sun cream, etc., etc. You know, because we don't have this very often and you might burn. So, but it's beautiful. How are you doing, Shelley?
I'm good, thank you. I've been out walking the dog early to make sure that I'm not stuck in any heat out there and getting an exhausted dog. But yeah, it's been good. It got a little bit too hot, but it was fine. It's fine. It's just as long as I've got a breeze. Yesterday. Yeah. But as long as I've got a bit of a breeze, I'm fine. But yes. How are you doing, Phil?
I'm good. Yesterday was not feeling too well, but I think that is the fibromyalgia and the heat clashing together. But today I feel much better. I'm good. How are you doing, Nikkei?
It's all very good, thank you. Very good. The sun is shining. It's bright, like Shelley. We're going out. Well, actually, I don't even need to go out earlier because I'm not working. So I just go out when I go out and I stay out longer. And yeah, it's all we are very grateful for today.
Yes. So today we are going to be talking about the violence that's going on in our cities, primarily around knife crime. Somebody got stabbed yesterday, a mum and a daughter in Leicester Square. I don't know if that's any different to like the centre of town. I don't know. I'm going to London next week and I'm thinking, oh, Leicester Square. Oh, okay. But they got stabbed in Leicester Square. We've had somebody today that's been stabbed in the centre of town. What is that? What is going on out there? What are your thoughts? So if you're watching or listening, let us know what your thoughts are. If you've got a question, ask a question. We don't have all the answers. I don't even know if we have any of the answers, but we're gonna make some. But yeah, is it because it's holidays, school holidays? You know, the stats always show that violence, definitely domestic violence, increases around holiday time and things like that. Is that what's going on? Don't know. Let us know your thoughts. So, Shelley, what have you got on your laptop there? What have you seen?
I did try earlier on before we came onto the show a couple of different ways that you can do it, but I can't find like an official line from Bedfordshire Police that they've released to the public.
Okay.
It's only what they've released to sort of like your media outlets that they always do. Because a man has been arrested. They have classed it as attempted murder.
Okay.
And that was at 5 to 1 this morning. So and it was on George Street. I think for the Luton one, it was just so peeved because we've got like the knife angel sculpture in St George's Square, so it's just meters away from where this stabbing has happened. I mean, the police have turned up and a man was arrested on the scene, and they're in their 30s. That's all that they say. So they know that it's not a wider threat or anything. Mm-hmm. But with the heat, with if you've been out drinking all day. I know we had like Luton Town football were playing yesterday in town. What on earth it could have been to make it kick off. I mean, I know St George's Square gets quite busy anyway. You seem to get people generally hanging around there. So
drinking and smoking and
it doesn't feel all that comfortable sometimes. And even for me that have grown up here, it's, and being around people like that, it doesn't really necessarily bother me. But it's because there's so many different groups of people all hanging around in St George's Square, it can be a bit intimidating. So yeah, whatever happened last night, we don't really know, but it was just a one-off incident. The same with Leicester Square. Leicester Square seems like it was a bit of an altercation kind of thing, and someone kicked off, and someone then got caught in the middle of it. But again,
so the mum and her daughter
got caught up in
that.
From what I can see,
was it the mum and daughter that got stabbed?
Yeah. From what I can see, but again, that is only I don't really want to take too much as to what's been said. You want to go by official sources on all these kind of things. But Leicester Square is another one that can be very, very busy. People can be sat there all afternoon having a drink, or that they've generally got to that point because that's where all the nightlife, if you've got going in nightclubs or anything, happens to be. But we've had a fantastic evening in Leicester Square and joined in with the buskers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was Leicester Square, wasn't it?
It was Leicester Square. But yeah.
But it's interesting though, because for people who live in London, Leicester Square could be their George Square, our square, you know. Whereas in my head, Leicester Square is something totally different to our square.
Yeah.
And I'm then like, maybe because there's so many tourists there as well, because there's lots of tourists who are bustling around there, which would make that slightly different. But
I think where you've got a load of people congregating, it's going to be a boiling pot. I think everybody's on edge at any rate. And I just think, while the police have reported these as being separate incidents, got nothing to do with anything else, I just think tempers are just a little bit shorter at the moment. And I think where you put in there, group, Shelley, about the statistics show that crime rates do go up traditionally in the middle of the summer holidays. So when you take that off the back of the fact that we have got, I think everything is heightened when you're in a recession or a cost of living crisis, as we're calling it these days. Anyways, everything is heightened. You know, all the things that you think we've spoken about this year on the show is increased, and it's a nightmare. Because you just don't know. You know, we were driving off somewhere the other month, and the young girl that was driving, you know how it is, you get to a place where it's past me, I pass you. And to be fair, in the balance of what do we call it? Nobody had the right of way, because that's just how it is. But in terms of common sense, really and truly, the person coming towards us there was a space where they could have stopped and let us go through, but they didn't, and then my young friend, literally, she just got out of the car. I'm still saying, oh, never mind. Yep, she got out of the car, and I'm thinking, I want now. I don't care how much taekwondo we do, right? This person there, she's a 4-star. She's very well capable of taking care of herself. But to me, that is not the point. You know, you've got this pint-sized lady coming out, going to challenge this person who actually happened to be a female as well. But then we had another one again with the same person in you know, that standalone Greg's that has opened opposite Dunelm. Yeah, so it was in there, and those guys there, they were just a nightmare the way they were behaving. And I'm calling them out. I said, why do you why do you feel the need to challenge these people? I understand that you were correct and they were behaving like bleep bleep bleeps, but you don't have to challenge everything because you do not know what mood those people are in. You do not know, and I've seen it before in London where people have challenged, and the person who was challenged, you actually thought he wasn't going to do anything. Next thing you know, he's coming to the back of his car, opens the boot, and he comes out with a what do you call those big spanner things? Oh, not a ratchet, but you know what I mean. One of those, a wrench, a big fat wrench. And I'm going to my friend, we need to reverse, and we literally had to reverse out. So and that's the thing, that I only say all of that just to say is that because we just do not know what moods people are in. I can't imagine from the way they've described these things that these people actually set out to go and do that. And to me, that's what makes it more scary.
Yeah, because you just don't necessarily know what's going to happen. Although our one, that was obviously at nighttime.
Yeah.
And as Shelley said, there was football. Where it is, it's right near the pub. Have they been there drinking all day? Has that added to that situation? Possibly not. I mean,
the Leicester Square one was at 11:30 in the morning.
Yes, yeah. And I don't know whether there's any information come out of that. I know somebody on my Facebook has put surprise, are they blaming mental health again? And I just thought, is that what you're talking about?
They've made a big thing on all of the reports that the fact that because he's already appeared in court, that he is of no fixed address, and then said that he's not British national. And all he's then said is just then confirmed his name, just to then be taken down and then end up like the rest of just to say like the rest of his charge.
Yeah.
Because it's attempted murder and having a bladed article.
Yeah.
So all the reports have got that, not that they necessarily say it, but they kind of implicate that was what was going on. And it's like anyone can pick up on that, and we can see what happened before.
And I just think I do think the media have a big part to play in, especially what happened last week and into the week before that, because just because they haven't released certain bits of information doesn't mean that you can then go and make it up and filter that out there. Because obviously by the time the information come out, they had decided that the guy that had killed the girls in Stockport, they'd already decided that he was an immigrant, even though he wasn't an immigrant. So it's, and the media then just whips all that up. So if you have a look at the one in Luton last night into this morning, they're very quick to put that it happened right near the Knife Angel. And it's like, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? Why did you need to put that in there? Just say it happened in the square. It just happened in the square because that's where they were.
It's the narrative. It's who is owning these narratives, you see. Because when you go back to the timeline of what you were just talking about, somebody actually did a timeline of when it happened, what was released, bearing in mind that the person who did the one in Stockport is a minor still, under 18, so his details would not have been released. And then obviously they had to release them because they saw what was going on. And then like you said, and then the media, the way they reported it, and then you've got prominent people whose name I'm not even going to mention coming out with very pointed, well, I just call them dog whistles because he knows who he's talking to, but with very pointed questions, and they're allowed to get away with it. Whereas that if that were you or I that did that, we would be arrested on inciting hate crime.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a problem.
Yeah.
But looking at this one in Leicester Square, this is the one where the security guard intervened, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that face for? What is that face?
Some of the, that's what I said. When you look at some of the other reports, there is stuff that either has come from the media or has come from Facebook, and you don't know where it's from. But there was something that kind of kicked off, and it seems to be that this girl, I mean, the mum wasn't injured. She thought she was originally, but it was sort of like everything that's come from her daughter. But there's something that's happened to kick it off, and you can't quite get, obviously,
Was he robbing the place? And yes, so, and I know they can't give all the information. I understand that, and if someone's got to go to court, you know, they need to have these details there, and they have to hold some. I get all of that. But it's that whole in between where somebody else is going to say something and make a bit up, or they see something different to what actually happened, because you know you can have 10 different people at the same incident and everyone will see something different.
Yeah.
But
I just find it interesting in 2024 that they have not got a handle. That's why I know it's deliberate, you know, where you say about the media, and it's the stuff, because right now the narrative is owned by a certain sector of community. That is my personal opinion, and you know, anybody's welcome to challenge it. But I just think in 2024 we should be able to use our native tongue, which is English, to be able to write a press release saying this happened, a suspect. This is how they used to do it back in the day when we first started reading newspaper. Well, maybe they didn't. Maybe I was blinkered then, but you know, this is what's happened. Somebody attempted to do A, B, and C. They were disarmed. Further details will be released at such a time.
Yeah. End of. That's it. And then you have to wait.
It can be done, yeah. But it's deliberate. It's just it's if you think about the fact that somebody tried to assassinate Donald Trump.
Why are you getting into this? I thought we'd left him where he was.
It's got nothing. What I was about to say has got really nothing to do with Donald Trump. I was going to say you can substitute that for any other prominent person, but the point is, it was Donald Trump that they tried to assassinate. Well, regardless of our thought process around that, and quite rightly, the Secret Services were brought to book that. Why is it taking you so long to release your report? Because when these things happen in these high volatile places, they could get them within half an hour.
Yeah.
And they know who they are. They know whether they were known. Obviously, you know, either they were killed at the scene, or they were chased, or they were fugitive. You normally know all the narrative as they want you to know it there and then.
Yeah.
So all I was going to say, so if that could happen at that level, like the one that did the one on Westminster Bridge a few years ago, if they could get that information all gathered really, really quickly and release it in the narrative they choose, why can they not release really quickly something with a white label narrative and leave it at that? So then everybody knows that anything in between is being made up.
Do you think they do that for particular cases? Like you know, this was the former president of the USA, you know, do you think they do that for those things? Or do you think they just pick and choose? Or why do you think they choose?
I think they pick and choose, because if you look at how honestly, it's a bit sketchy now. I feel like I should Google it, but I just remember, who was that guy that was shot in the tube station that was being chased by the police? How the description of what he'd done, the description of him changed, the description of what they thought he had done changed. It was a mess. The whole thing was a mess. And then somebody lost their life just because of supposed this if ands and buts.
Yeah. Are they jumping on the bandwagon of people's mental health?
Well, it could be, but sometimes it can be proven that somebody was suffering with a mental health that could have caused them to have a breakdown in that moment. But it still goes back to the point we made earlier. Until we know, we don't know. So why are we assuming? And then again, like I said, it's all picking up because the proper press releases are not done. Then people will pick and choose. So depending on the view, but depending on who's looking at it, they will then attach what they feel like. So we know how they attach the one with the guy from Stockport. They, when the person looks different, either it doesn't get talked about at all, or they will try to say, or they would use. I wouldn't even say jumping on the bandwagon of, because really that's not fair for people who are really suffering with those things. But they would use it to lessen it, depending on. I don't know. It's a very tough call. I think it's very scary. I think people's moods, like I said, are very heightened, and
trouble is what you'll sometimes find with. There's always the stigma around mental health. And if you knew, not even just mental health, but if you knew how some people react to a situation, so whether that then be that they do have some, sort of like your autism, your ADHD, that kind of thing as well, that how you would react to a situation actually would make it worse. So if you have got someone that is either suffering with their mental health and going through a crisis, or has actually then got a diagnosis of something, that they're having a hard time and you don't recognize it and know how to approach the situation, that it'll actually kick off a hell of a lot more than it would actually then need to be. So if you go in heavy-handed, they can then fight against you. If you go in, you can't. It's that balance. You can't then go in too lightly, because it could then you're not then controlling the situation enough. And I think there is a lot that's going on, and as you said earlier, Nikke, with the whole like the crisis with money, there's more and more people that are on the streets, whether they don't have a home to go to, whether they're not happy with the home that they go to, so they spend more time on the street, or whether they are actually completely homeless. It is then that you'll see all of this and have all those kind of problems out in the street, and how people then try and cope through the day. Because the whole drinking thing and the drugs thing, quite often you'll hear, I'm only doing this just to switch that thing off. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be like being dependent on something, but it's switching off my thoughts and feelings about the situation or whatever else. So we're seeing it a lot more now, because government haven't put the money into the schemes that were there, or the changing round, trying to save money. There's more and more charities and projects out there that are trying to plug these holes. And if the government are then not giving the money to those charities can't plug the holes, and then you get this huge burst of something that's then there. So it's
So Dia said, what's the core root?
That's a deep question for a lunchtime.
That's a real talk show question.
That is, that is. It's.
I don't know what the core root is, because it varies depending on the situation. So because some people it is going to be recession, and like we've said before, we're in the 6-week holiday, and the pressure on families to the pressure on families to keep their children entertained is really high. So you've got, and I remember when my kids were little, and so you trying to do, I don't know, a 3-day holiday, 4-day holiday in a caravan, as opposed to their friend that's going to go 2 weeks in Florida. And you're trying to do the best you can, but actually some people are living in poverty. So they're trying to find their next meal, let alone even think about whether there's even going to be a holiday, because there isn't. So sometimes that is the root cause.
I think you're right, so it depends.
No money.
I think you're right. It does depend, and it depends on what part of this type of crime you're looking at, because obviously there is a lot of conditioning. I mean, it's very difficult to kind of pinpoint anything on these 2 incidents that we've been talking about. But then if you want to look at it in knife crime per se, and how that is labelled and narrated and what goes on, then there's a lot of conditioning involved. Then there is a lot of money involved, because obviously a lot of these things that go on, and I'm trying to choose my words very carefully here.
I just like it that she's trying to choose her words carefully, because you can see that she's thinking about the words.
Well, because what it is, right? Oh gosh, never mind. Listen to my walk and talk this morning, then you'll understand where I'm coming from. But you know what it is. You know how, like, knife crime, in particular in London, how it has been portrayed as if it is only on, as if it's only like black on black crime, etc.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, just as an aside, I did see a post the other day where somebody was saying, no, we don't say that. Crime is crime. It doesn't work like that. But anyway, but the way it has been portrayed for many years, as if to say it only happens in those areas. Those, it's only those type of people that are in the gangs, and they're the only ones who carry knives, and those are the only ones who commit these crimes. But obviously we happen to know that is not true. It's kind of universal. It is a major problem. But I would imagine that there's a lot of conditioning there. There's a lot of conditioning. There's a lot of agitation.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of it, and it has been going on for years, that because you live in a certain area, you're kind of learning from your peers around you, and that's your natural progression of how your life's going to be. It's like, okay, if the government and if your local councillors just think, oh yeah, that's that kind of just let them get on with it kind of thing, then yeah, they do. Or something happens, sometimes, quite often, and it actually then turns someone around and they're like, no, I'm actually going to make something of myself. And now we've got that for years and years, because I've got kids that I've seen grow up around my old estate. I lived in Tin Town. And Stopsley.
Okay.
It was called Tin Town because originally when the houses were built, they were built just after the war. And there were breeze blocks to make it so they could actually make them really, really quickly. And they thought to brighten them up, there was a tin off the front, and they were all different colours.
Oh, I see.
4 different pastel colours that they would all turn all the way down the street. So it's Tin Town. But it was a council estate. And like a typical council estate, you would get to know your particular families and everything else. So where my mum was the dinner lady at the junior school, as it was then, she would have like children that were my age coming through, and then get to see the generations come through the school.
Yeah.
And not necessarily would they have the same surname, but quite often she would then actually have the children of the children of the children.
Yeah.
And she would then go, oh, that makes sense. They've reacted that way. That makes sense, because it's gone through their generations of how this is how things work in our family.
Yeah.
And it's just the same with the gangs, and it's the same with, I mean, like they call it postcode wars kind of like now, but it was back then. It wasn't postcode wars, it was an estate wars. For example, like Tin Town, you have Ashcroft Road that goes down the middle, and then you'd have Littlefield Estate on the other side.
Yeah.
We were the Tin Town, Ashcroft Road. There was a pub. It is now a Morrison's Daily or something now. But this pub, yeah, the pub that was there had about 15 different names because it kept getting redone up, relaunched, new management.
Oh my Lord, yeah.
And then get absolutely battered within a couple of months because the family on this estate and the family on this estate got drunk in there, all hell kicked off again. And then it ended up being just this empty building for so long. And for people to say stuff happening now is all new, it's not. It's just happening in a different way. It never was knife crime then. It was you would batter each other.
Yeah.
You would pick up something and throw it at them. It was
bat or something like that.
Yeah, it was fisticuffs. You would actually batter one another.
Yeah.
It was not the knives. So now where it's knives, and you've got people that don't know how to handle knives because they're holding them for their own protection, are actually getting into these things more and actually getting hurt more because they've got the knife and it's escalated.
Okay, so is there a difference then between that time and this time with regards to bystanders who are then getting hurt? So like whatever went on in London yesterday, whatever that person was doing, and the doorman intervened, security guard intervened, when people were going out years ago and they're just going to go and beat you up because actually you've upset my sister or whatever you've done, were there people who would then get caught up in that for no reason? For our estate, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, for our estate, you would have had the people that would be battering each other. If they needed to because of a reason, they would quite often stand back. You know, if there was a beef, it's like, no, that's their beef.
Yeah.
If it's just kicked off, quite often you will have the others go in and they're either trying to join in or they're trying to pull each other away. But you would just end up getting ripped shirts and stuff. Now, if you was in that kind of a situation where, which I have seen, no one got hurt, thankfully, but what started off as a bit of to-ing and froing with words, kind of like you bumped into me, what are you looking at me for? That then turned into a friend trying to get in the way instead of saying, no, we've had a drink, he's not worth it, you're going to get into trouble, or I've got your empty missus, you know, that kind of a thing, and pulled away. The other person's then pulled a knife out. Now it could have been the friend that was with him, because he's got in the way, could have got hurt.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be that the guy that pulled the knife, his friend realised what was happening and actually managed to bundle him away backwards. But it could have been just so much different. Yeah. Because you're having a go at someone, you don't know that person's got a knife. And that's where people get dragged into it. Well, it seems to be anyway. Seems to be.
Did anybody see the Panorama episode yesterday, which was about the 3 people that were killed in Nottingham? So the janitor Ian Coates, Barnaby Webber, and Grace O'Malley Kumar. They were killed last year. I think it was last year. And the Panorama show has obviously highlighted all these failings with the NHS, and how this most probably could have been prevented. So, did we have those failings years ago?
My question would be that did they actually look into those failings like years ago? I think while core relationships, etc., attitudes and things might be passed down, as Shelley described, the societal impact, the way we measure it, the way we look at it, that has kind of changed. So I don't know if it was actually really looked into that much in those days. Not in terms of knife crime, obviously in terms of social work and things like that. Yes, we've had that, but in terms of this one, it's all up and coming.
And also, I would presume if you go back 30 years, the NHS was not under as much stress as it is now with the amount of people that we have now that are needing that support. So that kind of then makes some sense.
Social care was able to keep on top of, even though quite often at the time it didn't feel like it. Any of the kind of social care that was around was managed to keep on top of.
Yeah.
With cutting things and things then escalating with the amount of people we've naturally got now, which you were going to get anyway. It's nothing to do with immigration.
That's exactly what's going through my head, because somebody out there, you know, who's listening to this, and tell us if that's how you're thinking, they're going to immediately go, well, if you didn't let the immigrants in, then we would, you know, it wouldn't be under stress.
When you look at history, and I have had this conversation with my nephew, when you look at history, the after the Second World War, you had what was called the baby boom generation.
Yeah,
it hasn't actually physically stopped since then.
Yeah,
it has gradually been generation upon generation actually been building up.
but also, if you think about it, there are more people accessing the NHS. So I've got fibromyalgia. I'm pretty sure, go back 30 years, that's just aches and pains that you get when you get old. You know, as you're getting older, you're going to get those aches. But I remember my mum saying that, I've got some aches and pains because I'm old. Actually, it could have been something else then. Whereas now, they would be looking into that. So for me, I'm then taking up an appointment at the doctor's, appointment at the hospital, physio, whatever, which they wouldn't have been using 30 years ago because they didn't know that.
So then that leads to the fact that
your baby boom generation now after second. Sorry.
It is improvement. It is improvement.
It is improvement.
But it also goes to show why the NHS is so busy, because of everything they have that they know now and what they can then do.
Yeah, it's you're with the things like cancer, with the things like your physios and all that kind of stuff. You would have got to a point where we can't provide any more help for you and stop.
Yeah.
Whereas now we can provide more and more help.
Yeah, we're going to try this. We're going to try this.
And try, yeah. But you've also then got, when I went back to sort of like history and your baby boomers, those children of the Second World War are now at an age where they're the elderly that are in the care system.
Yeah.
And that is a huge difference to what it would have been a few years ago because of everyone that did die during the war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or have the health that came from that time during the Second World War that were naturally dying earlier. So we're living longer because the medication and everything else is then there. We're living longer because we actually then had children coming through that had a better health system. So things like the NHS is naturally bigger. So it's not necessarily anything to do with the way that immigration is.
Yeah, can I just say, because I did see some stats on that, and I don't know, it's the ratio of where you'll say that, like maybe people were thinking it is 14%, 86, 14. So 14% of people of immigrants and 86% indigenous. And also, because obviously a lot of people focus on the illegal immigrants, which of course are actually a much smaller number as well. And apparently, what I did not know, I just learnt this the other day, and I have not investigated it yet, but those illegal immigrants that have been processed that are waiting, obviously they still don't actually have proper access to the NHS, and they have to pay to renew that status. I don't know if that is true, because like I said, I've not investigated it yet. I've not had time. It was just the way it was presented was very interesting and made me think, because it's a lot. But in terms of, but even if you don't break it down to the ones that are illegal, just the actual breakdown of it being 14% to 86%, it might be more, it might be more than 14%, but it's not going to be that much more.
No.
But a lot of people, I suppose, when you're in the melting pot to the boiling pot and all your conditions are raised to the top, you are not going to suddenly think, oh, wait a minute, yes, now what if we're going on this fight and going and looting the place, because that woman on them Simply Together show said it was only 14% and it's not really impacted it. But you don't know, do you?
No.
I mean, I'm sorry. That just bring like a segue into another thought process.
And that would be the one and only time they've ever watched our show as well.
Yeah,
they watched it once, and that woman on there said,
"Oh my God,
would be funny. That would be funny." It's. I mean, we started off talking about crime. We've then ended up with the NHS, but actually, it's all kind of related, because you know the amount of people that are caught up within some kind of violence due to being under the mental health team, or not being supported, or not having access, or you know, that is, I think that's quite a high number. Or is that a high number because that's what we're led to believe it's a high number, you know? So for example, a few of us, myself, Dee, etc., we were at Reggae Land not last week, weekend before.
Yeah.
Don't know what the stats are around arrests and things like that, but one person got stabbed. But they were quite quick to tell us that that was, or infer that that was a situation that happened because these two people knew each other and came because of that.
A contained incident.
Yes. And maybe it was, and it most probably was.
But don't you think that takes us back to the point we made at the beginning? That why is it? Who? Okay, let's even assume. Let's take it at face value. That is the truth of the matter, right? That happened at Reggae Land, and it was reported. Was that before or after Reggae Land finished? Right. So that was quite
after
quick.
I would presume it was quick enough, because it was the Sunday afternoon, evening. Yeah. So I read that on the Monday morning. And maybe what they do is they need to say that so that people then don't feel like that's not somewhere I should be going, because random people are going to get killed. I mean, the guy didn't die. He didn't die anyway. Was in, I don't know if he's still in hospital, but yeah. So they want to make sure you know that was not some random person that's coming along and doing that to random people. So they want to let you know in a roundabout.
That makes sense.
That's what that was.
But nowadays,
that does make sense.
You don't. There's all sorts of different information circling around. So they want to nip it in the bud as well, to then say, don't go off on one. This is, we know what it was, and it's all been dealt with. You don't need to worry about it. But back in the day, you would never have known about it in the first place. You just would have gossiped about
unless you was actually standing there, you wouldn't know.
No,
because you'd have to wait for the Luton News or the Herald or whatever Herald or Post to come out, and then you would know what has then happened. And I think also, I mean, with regards to the police, they're always on a, I don't want to say it like that. It feels sometimes like they're on a back foot, because whatever happened to that guy, for example, at Reggae Land, 2 minutes later, that would have been on the internet. because whoever was nearby would have had their camera or they'd had their phone or whatever. So by the time the police can get a report out to try and contain it, it's already around there.
Yeah.
It's already around there because people have got their phones.
Yeah. But you see, when you look at it like that by itself, you could just think, yes, back foot. But then again, when I look at that in relation to the other stuff we've been talking about, I say thank God for the phones. Because because look, whether we like it or not, facts are friendly, right? If two of us, let's say it's you and I, so I'm not manifesting anything bad for us, but let's just say, right, we're two ladies of color there, we're outside and we're having a brawl, and then Shelley's walking along and decides to film it. Say, oh, guess what I saw on Sunday High Road, blah, 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 puts it on there. You can't then come around and say, oh, well, Nikki did it to me because she's a black belt in Taekwondo. And look at her, you know, she's darker.
I would say that.
Blah, blah, blah.
That's exactly what I would say.
Yeah, but you could say that.
Because she
but
didn't
what I'm
see
trying
the
to say that
beginning.
you can't change, no, because Shelley has filmed it and put it online. So what I'm trying to say is that the police cannot come and then change the narrative, which I always believe that they want to do. Okay, on a sincere note, man, that was a really bad example, but it
was
kind of made me laugh.
Because you would have already been trying to do those moves, and I would have already said to Shelley,
we don't
you
do
need
that.
to film it because she's using her martial arts to beat me up.
Listen to the writer. Oh dear.
But that's the thing, though, isn't it? That is the thing, because we're just doing this in jest. But somebody else out there is then going to use that narrative with whatever it is that they're doing or whatever it is that they've seen.
I tried to find a picture again online and I can't find it. But what it basically was like a cartoon. You've got a fence and you've got one guy at one end of the fence that's up a couple of steps and he can see over the fence and see everything on the other side of the fence. There's this one guy at this end of the fence that's looking through a small hole. And there's a pipe that comes out and there's water coming out and spilling out.
Oh, I saw that, yes.
Yeah. And the guy that's looking through the small hole says, no, I'm not going over there. It's like it's pissing it down with rain. It's because of what I can see.
Yeah.
And the guy at this end of the fence that can see everything is trying to explain, no, what you're seeing is wrong. And he's like, no, my own eyes are seeing through this hole and it's raining.
Yeah.
Exactly
that's like the beach ball.
What you're actually looking at on the internet. Exactly the same. You're looking at that person's version of events.
Yeah.
So here's a question, because we're going to finish in a minute. Is locking people up the answer? It depends who the people are. Because those protesters who were rioters, but those protesters, they needed to be locked up.
You actually
you're very generous, Cecile. You are very generous. Sorry, they were not protesters. They were rioters and looters, and they had nothing better to do than to go. And a lot of them are so foolish. I saw a video the other day where this guy, literally, he's going to lose everything. He's he's in the court and then he's bare crying. And I'm thinking to myself, you're a man, you're a dad, you're a business owner, and you thought it was okay to go and smash up a community to which you do not even belong, and then now you're in court crying.
Yeah.
How does that even work? So you deliberately switched off your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those kind of people that needed that shock value of what court is or what prison is. Other people that are out there, they just know that prison is just, whatever, lock me away. And they switch off from that deterrent.
Yeah.
And they actually find, because there was a couple of documentaries I've watched, that you actually find that they're in there for small things.
Yeah.
But they just escalate to big things because they're in a prison cell with like a couple of different, there could be a murderer in there, there could be anything else, and you've just gone in because you've robbed the corner shop. You know what I mean? It's it's the prison service definitely needs to be reevaluate because it's not working the way that it used to. It's not that deterrent. Way back when my mum and dad were of an age, they always used to then turn around and say, you would never ever dare speak back to a copper, because they knew everyone in your village or in your town, that you would never get to that point. And if it was prison, it was like, oh, it's a big thing. That gossip is going to go all the way up and down your street. Everyone's going to know that you've been taken in for questioning even. So it was that big deterrent. That's not a deterrent anymore. It's not.
Well, no, because you've got them. You've got 12-year-olds who are joining in with these mindless people who are fathers, who have got jobs, who have got this and this and this. You know, they are picking up stones and throwing them. They're not actually. It's not a stone. They're picking up bricks. You know, it's not a stone. They're picking up things and they're throwing that at the police. You know, there seems to be no fear in doing that. Whereas, you know, years ago, you wouldn't even talk back to a policeman.
Yeah, but you see, it's funny that you say about the 12-year-olds, because those 12-year-olds were taken there by somebody. I don't think that 12-year-old woke up in the morning and thought, oh, Mum, see you later. I'm just going to go out and join the riots. They were taken there.
Yeah.
So that is what that's what they're being taught.
Yeah.
I actually feel sorry for those ones, because I just feel that their potential for life is being reduced.
I don't know, because hopefully this alone will then set them on a different path. If they are
if they're out with their dad and their brother, if they're out with their dad, brother, and Uncle Jane.
But if Uncle James is the one that sat in the court crying, then they may take a different path. If they see that some of those people that they know are being locked up, they may take a different path. That is true. People are committing worse crimes and getting less time in prison.
Yes,
so
there is that as well.
We need to do another show.
It goes back to the narrative.
Yeah.
That again goes back to the narrative, isn't it? Yeah.
About crime and prison, etc., etc. And we did talk about this, I don't know, a couple of months ago, and I said I wanted to get Louise on. So Louise Clark, Mrs., if you're watching, drop me a message, because you wanted to talk to us a bit about prisons, and we were talking about letting people out earlier. We was also talking about when you get arrested, saying the no comment, the no comment, the no comment. We had a very small conversation, a small conversation about that. So need to get in touch with Louise and get Louise on, because it's a whole big thing. It is a whole big thing. And yeah, I think
it's all linked, though.
It's all linked. It's all interlinked.
It's very interesting how, like you said, we started off talking about the knife crime, and then we've ended up with the NHS, and now we're talking about prisons.
Yeah. It's all
like
interlinked. And the fact that we don't have that fear from your Bobby, because you don't even have a local Bobby.
You don't.
You know, is that what we're missing, or actually is that where we're supposed to be? Because this is now 30 years, 40 years, 50 years later. You know, is it supposed to have moved on?
It depends on how you look at it, though, isn't it? Because when you depending on who you ask, in the sense that, right, sometimes this is where I show my age. You know, last year baby boomer here. I do believe that there has to be a certain level of respect and reverence in the community, and I think it would be nice that if I had a child and they were out there misbehaving, and Cecile or Auntie Shelley would see them, I would give them a clip round the ear and say, "Excuse me, we don't behave like that." But I think, because of the way things have gone, there has been so much abuse. I use that word lightly. You know, like abuse of power. You know, mistreatment, add all the isms on it, you know, all of those things. By the time you add that all up, and people having to advocate for themselves, because obviously when the people, I'm not saying that it's right, and I'm not saying that all policemen are corrupt or all policemen are racist and stuff like that, but the way those things have been broken down, it will be a very long time. Bear in mind, people don't even like it. Even if you remove that police from the equation, not many people would feel comfortable to tell somebody else's child off, even though it is glaringly obvious that that child is misbehaving. So
it's like you said, it's all interconnected. Do we need to go back, and are we even seeing other people's kids out anyway? Are we even going out to see other people's kids?
Okay, on a lighter note,
you know
I will tell you, right? Yeah. On a lighter note, I was at Taekwondo the other day. I was standing literally by the door. I was in the in-between coming out. And these two kids literally absolutely rushed past me. So I'm like, excuse me. And they're like, well, I said, come back here, come back. And I said, did you not see me standing there? And they're like, oh, sorry, miss. And then they walked off. And then I went out, and the owner of the children was just round the corner there. And then she's bare apologising. So I said, no, you don't have to apologise. I said, they're children. If people do not tell them the correct way to behave, they're not going to know. You know, they're probably just excited because they're going in to go and meet all their mates, and they're going to go and bash the living daylights out of somebody. But I only use that as an example because it's a light example, because I could have easily just ignored them and just let them run by. But bear in mind, the first tenet of Taekwondo is courtesy.
But exactly, and I think there's a lot now where people don't even say that. They'll just let them do that, and then they'll moan about it.
Because they don't want because they don't. They're worried about what the owner of the child is going to say, because a lot of people do not want their child there. I mean, even me growing there, I would be off the background where you misbehave and someone is telling you. I mean, I'm not saying that's my background, actually. I'm the one who my auntie would give a clip around the ear. But I do know that a lot of people that are just slightly younger than me, it will be a case of, don't you talk to my child like that, blah, 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 blah. But when you get home, when that child gets home, they're going to get it. Like, why are you disgracing me out there, blah, 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 blah. Whereas I feel that transparency's sake, obviously, that there's always got to be a line. There's always got to be a boundary, you know. But I don't really see anything wrong, because sometimes people literally just do not know.
Okay. Look at the time. The time has flown past again, as usual.
Can I just, because I've literally just found this online. Nothing to do with that. Hang on, I need to share it. They want to do some kind of unity. Is that going to do it? No.
Gathering.
Yeah. And it's something that's very new. It's only just kind of coming out.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of people know Scott from like Luton Council.
The joys are good on the phone. I can't see that.
So they're putting on an event on Friday, the 30th of August, in light of recent unrest in the UK, to show Luton's biggest asset, its unity. For the evening of the 30th in St George's Square from 5 to 9ish. It's all a bit vague because it's only just been sorted out. If there's any performers that want to get involved, you've got Scott Eastwood's email address there, or contact us, and then I'll pass it on to Scott.
I did see that earlier on. So if we can get that sharing around ours, share it out to other people, because it would be really good to be able to go and do that.
Yeah. So it'd be something to go along. So if you've got performers, but again on a Friday down St George's Square, just to show your support and just show that the unity that Luke has got. It's not all that.
That would be really good. And maybe we can see if we can get Scott on next week. Yeah. To talk about it. That would be good. Okay. Wonderful. So we've got the bingo is next week.
Yes, the bingo up
next week. What date is that?
I'm just trying to explain.
Hold on.
I thought it was. I thought the figure was in September. What?
No, 22nd. It's the 22nd of August.
2nd of August, yeah.
At Mecca Bingo. It's a Thursday.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Have you got anything you can put up or not?
Yeah, I was just trying to see if I could find it, but I haven't got the. I can't find the link to the.
Okay,
yeah,
so
22nd of August. Look on our pages. Look on Knife Angel Luton's pages. It's got that it's the £20 a ticket. £10 of it then goes into the fund pot for the bleed kits. The bleed kits going around Luton.
we want to help Cy Phillips, isn't it? And his team to get the bleed kits so that we've got some within Luton. And they're doing this bingo and it's going to be great. So that's what we want to do. We want to be on board and helping. Why are you laughing? What is she laughing?
I'm laughing at what we were talking about before we came on air. I sat back there and I just thought I just blended into my voice.
Anyway, we are going. Our time is up. We've got work to do. We'll be back here again next week, as usual, 12 o'clock. And anybody who's watching it on catch up, let us know that you watched it. Send us some messages. Let us know what you think. Can you see the connection from crime to the NHS, back there, over to this? Can you see where we're going? It'd be really good to know. So see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.